The other day, I got a message from my pal Amanda Marcotte requesting that I look into something that seemed really fishy. And just from the thumbnail and headline she sent, I laughed out loud. Babies smile over carrots and scowl over kale inside the womb. Like, yeah, let's just count the red flags. First of all, the images are hilarious. The one on the left does not look like a smiling baby. It looks like a fucking Cronenberg nightmare demon grinning because it's about to come eat my soul. But the most egregious red flag here is the phrase babies inside the womb. We can argue over whether NBC News is actually journalism, but if this is journalism, and if it's about a scientific study, then the correct term is fetus. Yes, if you are pregnant and you want to be pregnant, of course you and your friends and your family will think of it as a baby, and that is absolutely okay and great for you. Congratulations on your baby. No one is going to insist that you call it anything else. But in science and in journalism, it's important to be precise because you're trying to convey accurate information to others. And for that reason, it's not a baby until it's outside of the uterus. Before then, it's a zygote, it's a blastocyst, it's an embryo, it's a fetus, depending on its state of development. So when someone uses one of those words incorrectly, it can cause confusion and it can be a red flag that someone might be anti-abortion rights, like referring to all fetuses as babies, or even referring to embryos as fetuses, like in the fetal heartbeat laws, which, as I've said in the past, are neither about fetuses nor are they about heartbeats. They call these 6-week bans fetal heartbeat bills, which is just perfect because it truly encapsulates how little Republicans know or care about science, because they're trying to say, this is the point when the poor little fetus's heart starts beating. But at 6 weeks, there is no heartbeat. There is no heart. There is no fetus. At 6 weeks, there is only an embryo, approximately the size of a lentil. And that lentil has a few cells that will eventually form a heart. You can put those cells into a petri dish and they will show activity. So, fetal heartbeat bill? No. Embryonic cardiac activity bill? Maybe. Anyway, I clicked through to the article and I was happy to see a more accurate headline has been put in place. Fetuses in the womb smiled after their mothers ate carrots but scowled over Kale Research finds. Now, I was still a bit skeptical, but the article itself is surprisingly good and avoids the word baby throughout. Basically, researchers at the Fetal and Neonatal Research Lab at Durham University filled capsules with either powdered carrot or powdered kale, and then they gave them to 70 women who were 8 or 9 months pregnant. An extra 30 pregnant women didn't take any capsules as a control. About 20 minutes later, the researchers performed ultrasounds to see in real time how the fetuses reacted once those powdered veggies reached the amniotic fluid. They cataloged the facial expressions each fetus made and found that in general, the fetuses that got the kale tended to grimace and the fetuses that got the carrot tended to make laughing faces. And that is a pretty cool result. While logically I know that fetuses at some point develop sensory organs, I tend to think of it as a passive process. I don't tend to think of them actually actively using their senses to become aware of their surroundings while they're still in the uterus. But scientists know that fetuses develop touch receptors around 8 weeks, though they can't sense pain till at least 30 weeks, and they start touching things. They put that into practice as soon as they can. You may already know that fetuses can hear at some point, but they can actually hear well enough to distinguish between different voices. They can even see a little because the uterus isn't completely pitch black. And in fact, one study in 2017 used lasers to find out that fetuses may prefer light patterns that look like faces. And yeah, fetuses also develop the ability to smell and taste. Those things are pretty closely interrelated. And they actively put those senses to use while still in the uterus. This study actually led me down a really weird rabbit hole, and here's some of the stuff I learned. Feel free to tuck this info away for use at future parties. Back in 1995, researchers gave 5 pregnant women capsules filled with essential oil of garlic and 5 other pregnant women placebo capsules. Then they collected samples of the women's amniotic fluid, and then, in an act of pure scientific depravity, they had an unsuspecting panel of people smell the samples. And the panel was actually able to sniff out the garlic samples in 4 out of 5 cases, suggesting that, yeah, what we eat changes the smell of our amniotic fluid. So that was step 1. And that wasn't the only study. There have been many others that have shown mammalian fetuses in general react to new smells and tastes in the womb. And that, human fetuses drink several ounces of amniotic fluid a day. So step 2 was figuring out if fetuses care. Does it change anything? And in 2001, researchers asked pregnant women in their 3rd trimester to drink a load of carrot juice 4 days a week for the last few weeks of their pregnancy and then for the next 2 months of breastfeeding. A control group just drank water, and then there were 2 other groups who drank carrot juice just during their pregnancy, but water while breastfeeding, or vice versa. Carrots during breastfeeding and water during pregnancy. So once the babies were ready for solid food, but before they had ever tasted anything with carrots in it, the babies were given cereal that was prepared with either water or carrot juice. And the babies who got the carrot juice via amniotic fluid or breast milk fucking loved the carrot juice cereal. The water babies didn't care at all. So it seems that not only are the babies tasting what the pregnant person is eating, but it can actually influence their preferences later on. As some researchers summarized in a 2004 article, many studies have now shown olfaction in fetuses to modulate states of arousal or sleeping behavior, to elicit emotional behavior, to provide incentive and directional cues, to approach and withdrawal actions, to support recognition of particular individuals or settings, to activate pre-feeding actions, anticipatory digestive physiology, and to regulate the pace of ingestive behavior, and to contribute to the development of preferences in the alimentary and social domains. Some of these psychobiologic effects of olfaction begin very early and depend on the fetal experience of the organism. So yeah, fetuses smelling, tasting, and reacting to things that their parent eats is already a known thing. Enter this new study, which only adds to the research by showing the look on the fetuses' faces when they experience 2 distinct tastes. They picked carrots, they're a little sweet, but otherwise neutral, and kale, which was chosen specifically because it's very bitter. The researchers, and even NBC News, take pains to point out that the smiles and the grimaces don't necessarily mean that the fetuses like or dislike these tastes, but more likely that a grimace is just a natural reaction that a human has to an unexpectedly bitter taste. The article cites the lead researcher saying it's not known whether fetuses actually experience emotions or dislikes in a similar manner. And then they go on to say, Dr. Daniel Robinson, an associate professor of neonatology at Northwestern University Feinberg School of Medicine, who wasn't involved in the new research, similarly cautioned that people shouldn't interpret the ultrasound images as showing the fetus's happiness or distaste. The article also takes pains to point out that these fetuses were 8 to 9 months along, so very close to being born. So all in all, I found it to be a pretty good, well-balanced article that just happened to have a bad thumbnail headline that shows up when it's linked from social media. And it has one other negative thing. A video clip of NBC's Today Show hosts discussing this study. And that's where things kind of go off the rails a bit.
Some amazing baby faces. Look at this. So researchers in Britain wanted to know if babies in the womb react when the mom ingests a flavor of food. And this is what they saw. Do you want to guess what was on the left? Oh. So the left is a baby in its resting state. Okay. And then on the right, you see how he smiles 20 minutes? The mom ate some carrots.
Oh. On the left with
That was just a resting state.
That was the resting, but he liked the carrots.
They say baby's in the womb. He likes the carrots. It's not the best use of language. And that's understandable because this is our current state of news here in the US and everywhere at this point. It's not news. It's not journalism. It's infotainment. You know, it's casual. It's fun. It's hanging with your friends and chatting about what's going on in the world these days. And, you know, your friends don't take pains to use precise language. Your friends don't discuss the possible involuntary muscle movements of the third trimester fetus experiencing a bitter chemical for the first time. Your friends chuckle at the funny pictures of the babies who hate kale. Not a big deal, right? Like, it's just one segment on a stupid morning show that only your grandparents watch, right? Well, let's just take a look at what they're talking about over on Fox News. NBC's Today stuns, delights pro-lifers with segment referring to babies in the womb. NBC segment about unborn babies reacting to flavors causes social media firestorm. Cool. Great. Love a social media firestorm. Yeah, here's anti-choice fanatic Lila Rose tweeting, a baby when it makes for a cute news story, a fetus when justifying killing them. Conveniently missing the fact that these are entertainers, not scientists or serious journalists or progressive activists, talking about B, wanted fetuses mere weeks from being born. Fetuses are almost never aborted at that point. And when they are, it's because of abnormalities that either threaten the life of the person carrying them or abnormalities that render the fetus itself non-viable. Here's another apparently common reaction. Conservative actress Patricia Heaton commented, great reminder that babies in the womb are human beings who move, feel, react. There's this misunderstanding amongst anti-choice theocrats that liberals, or just anyone who supports a woman's bodily autonomy, think that fetuses are just completely inhuman trash before they're born, completely devoid of anything that resembles a baby human. On the contrary, the reason we know all about the fascinating ways that an egg develops into a human being is because of the largely godless, largely liberal population of researchers who have dedicated their lives to understanding the biology of humankind. It's the religious right who have tried to turn the word fetus into something inhuman and uninteresting. Scientists and critical thinkers understand that there is no easy and clear division between clump of cells and human being because that's how life works. It's messy and it's complicated and it's fascinating. A 6-week-old embryo showing activity in a petri dish, a 27-week-old fetus seeing light and dark, and a 34-week-old fetus reacting to bitter amniotic fluid, it's all fascinating, and no supporter of abortion rights should dismiss any of it. But none of that gives that zygote or embryo or fetus the right to take over my body or my life when I do not want an eventual baby. And none of it should prevent someone who does want a baby from getting an abortion when things go terribly, tragically wrong at the last minute. Don't fall for this ridiculous propaganda.